Okay, so today I wanted to talk to you about a really interesting concept called Discomfort Appears in the Light of Significance. Now, this is the crux of what we are doing, because what it does is it allows us to not only be grateful for discomfort, but to also see discomfort as an indicator of something of value. Now that's really, really significant, and see how significance and values actually correlate together there. The idea here is that we feel discomfort on a daily basis, and we usually feel discomfort because it is related to something that we value in life, and it is usually friction against that value. Now, the tricky thing here is that we usually react to discomfort because the discomfort obviously causes discomfort, and we want to usually push it away, deny it, avoid it, distract ourselves from it, and not necessarily experience it, because discomfort doesn't necessarily feel that nice. What I want to try and do is create an example so we can see this. Okay. As an example, someone comes to you and they express judgment, okay? And the judgment is in relation to, if we look at their behaviour, ignorance, because that's usually where judgment comes from. So they might say something, and it might be about somebody, they're creating some judgment there, and then we get upset around the judgment that people are creating. Now, the interesting thing here is that the ignorance creates discomfort because it's around judgment, but the judgment itself is related to the value of acceptance, understanding, possibly some compassion, maybe some empathy. So that can be the values that are associated to it. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is that when people come to us with ignorance and we get upset about it because people are judging it, we usually react with judgment ourselves. So what we are doing is we're actually showing them what they have shown to us. Now, for some of you might go, yeah, okay, that's what they deserve, you know. But we know that the outcome that comes from that is not necessarily of the best intent, because it usually then creates conflict and argument and further discomfort. The way I wanted you to look at this is that someone comes to you with ignorance, you experience judgment, you get the discomfort from that. You go, that's interesting. Now, I want you to experience the emotions that come from it. I certainly don't want you to deny it, try to minimise it or anything like that. But rather than reacting from the emotion, I want you to start to look at it in a way that, wow, this is really interesting, I'm really uncomfortable, I wonder what that's related to. And then we relate it to a value, and that's when we then look at that acceptance, the understanding, compassion, and empathy. These are the values that could be related to it, okay? And then what the idea is that we role model the values that are associated to it. Now, the tricky thing here is that when we role model values, and we've spoken about this before, that there is 2 points of relativity in this world. There is self and there is others. Okay? So what we're doing is we're role modelling the values to others because we're going to be more compassionate to that person rather than judging them. And then here's the kicker. We then role model that to ourselves. Now, that's something that we don't necessarily do very well. So that would actually suggest that we then role model acceptance to ourselves, a greater understanding, greater compassion, and greater empathy. So the reason why we feel discomfort is because something matters to us. Rather than getting upset with the discomfort towards the person and reacting with what they've presented us with, we then use that as an indicator of something that is of value to us. We work out what the value is to us, and then we role model it to others, and we also role model it to self. And it's interesting that, two different pathways of thought actually come from two different pathways of the brain. And we've spoken about this in the three brains. And when we work from these different parts of the brains, we then have different outcomes. And these outcomes are very, very different in their physiology and also their physicality as well. And we also start to become more and more aware of our values, and we also role model those values to ourselves. And that's the really important thing that sits around this. So give that some thought. I'm going to make another video soon, and it's going to talk about slowing down time. And this is actually part of how we slow down time. Great. I hope you got something out of that, and I'll be talking to you very soon. Thank you.